And
Whoa,
it, so
whoa, whoa. So a company that literally provides weapons for film sets,
so a
saying
company,
this is our procedure,
yeah, yes,
is nothing.
correct.
And someone who works on the rest set saying that was our procedure as well is nothing.
So
I'm sorry, that's absurd.
okay, a company out of
That's reaching.
Toronto is not relevant here because they weren't the ones running this production. Number one, okay, stories from people on other
I'm showing
sets.
what a standard is. I know they weren't working on it.
It's
I
not a
said that.
standard because you have a Fox News article that points to 2 or 3 people that said this, right? Because in all the articles, and I think you even admitted this, we both have said that there is widely different standards from set to set to set to set, right? It doesn't seem to be the case that it is ubiquitous that actors check the guns. That means that yes, we can probably find a lot of actors who say, oh yeah, we check guns because that's what we do on set, but there's a lot of them that don't as well, right?
All right, so the Baldwin situation. We got into a little back and forth in the Insta messages that absolutely no one saw except us, apparently.
True.
Your position right now, you say, is just that. Let me pull it up here. If I could figure out how my computer works. So you said your main points are just none of this is simple gun safety. And 2, it's silly to assign blame to people until all the details come out. I half agree with both these points, but also half disagree.
Okay. I fully agree and I'm ready to fight to the death on both of these points.
Wonderful. All right. So the first point, I've seen you say, actors don't have to follow traditional gun safety because obviously you have everyone coming out, including myself, that have been like, whoa, there are simple gun safety protocols that could have prevented this. Mm-hmm. And your main response, make sure I'm not, misrepresenting you, has been actors obviously don't have to follow simple gun protocol because in some cases they point the gun towards people or camera or whatever for a scene.
Yeah, so I would say that actors necessarily don't follow basic gun safety, but rather there is an advanced gun safety that would apply when it comes to actors dealing with firearms.
Yeah, so that's where I agree. If it's not basic gun safety that you would follow at a range, it's literally even more intense gun safety protocols that they would have. And I feel like when people say, whoa, actors don't have to follow gun safety, they get to violate it, this doesn't apply to them. To me, it feels like if this incident happened to an army general and he accidentally shot a private during a training session, people obfuscating by coming out and saying, well, it's a soldier's job to violate gun protocol. Soldiers don't have to adhere to civilian standards. I'd be like, well, yes, but in very specific instances that obviously did not apply to this.
So I would be, I'm going to be very careful on my wordage here, okay? I've had one very rough conversation with this. Okay, so I would say that is a very bad example. Now, I've got some vets in my chat. If I say something that's incorrect about military experience, please go ahead and point me in the direction of something else. But my understanding is you would absolutely never, on any base, whether deployed or at home or whatever, be in a situation where you're treating your firearm like an actor. So if a general or somebody in the military shot somebody else in the military, it would be like you failed some basic fundamental safety thing, with the only exception being maybe in a crazy active combat situation. But anything happening on base, if you shoot somebody else, if there is a negligent discharge, it is because you actually fucked up basic gun safety. That's my assumption on that. So I wouldn't compare the two. I would say that for actors, the situation is far more complex.
Well, okay, no. So well, it's the same thing for actors where there is not a single circumstance where you would point a gun with real ammo in it towards another person, right? So something fundamentally was fucked up there as well.
Wait, stop. I'm just going to cut you in. So, no. So
I'm not making a direct one-to-one comparison.
But I know, but you're saying that it's the same where actors wouldn't point a gun with live ammo. I'm saying that if you're a military personnel, my understanding is that you are never pointing a gun at another person ever, whether it's empty or not. That's just not something you should do.
Of course you point a gun at other people as military. You shoot to kill people when you're in a wartime situation.
I mean, against other friendly soldiers on base. I'm not talking about killing somebody. That would be an appropriate use of a firearm because you're intending to destroy the target, right?
Right. So that's the point I'm making, though. The point I'm making is in both these jobs, normal gun safety is followed 99% of the time, but there are exceptions. For soldiers, it's when they are in action, they are fighting the enemy, and for actors, it's when they are doing a shot where the gun is pointed at the camera or towards another person. And in both of these instances, there are extreme protocols that apply to ensure you don't have quote-unquote friendly fire. Of course, that term is
but I don't understand, if you're firing on an adversary, what rule of gunfiring are you breaking?
Sorry, what? Like, basic civilian gun safety.
No, wait. Okay, so I'm
you don't
asking,
fire at another person in general.
That's not basic.
Or
That
point.
no.
Basic. Are
No.
you saying civilians get to just shoot people at a range? I know you're not saying that, but like I'm confused with. Of course, they're violating basic civilian gun
So
safety.
there is not a basic gun rule that says don't shoot people, right? My understanding of the 4 fundamental cardinal rules of firearm is that you treat every firearm as though it's loaded. You only point the firearm at a target you're willing to destroy. You keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire, and you're always aware of what's beyond your target. If you're aiming at somebody with the intention to shoot and kill them, that's not an improper use of a firearm. It follows all 4 cardinal rules, and it can totally be fair in an active combat situation. You're not violating a safety procedure there or doing anything extraordinary by pointing at an enemy combatant and killing them. You're doing exactly as you intend to do with a firearm, much the same as when you shoot and destroy a target, you can shoot and try to kill another person.
Right, but like I mean, that's a fair point. But even in Canada, for example, like something you want to shoot and destroy, or the circumstances that they use a gun in the military and how they use them are still different from how civilians use them. Can we agree on that at least?
No,
because I feel like
I don't agree. I just don't agree on that. What do you mean? I don't understand. What's different?
Like military are able to use guns in different ways than civilians are.
I think for the military,
police as well.
I disagree. I don't think so. No, I think that in any of these situations, you cannot indiscriminately shoot and kill people. You need a proper justification to do so, especially in the military. You need a proper justification to kill somebody. But that's the exact same rule applied to a civilian as well, right? For self-defense or something, you need you have an elevated standard. You've got a defense that you'd apply in court for. I shot and killed this person for this reason. But it's the same thing for military and police as well.
But as a police officer, I can't, or as a civilian, I can't just go up to someone and point a gun at them and be like, "Get on the ground, I'm arresting you." There are, of course, instances where military and police have more rights with guns than the regular civilian, or different uses of guns than the regular civilian would.
If I'm being very generous, I guess in the commission of an arrest, I could agree. Sure. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like that's getting into the weeds, though. My point is that there are jobs where use of a gun will differ in some instances from regular civilian use. Can we agree on that?
In very niche scenarios, although those are still almost completely following all of the cardinal rules of firearm ownership. For instance, if a police is aiming a gun at a perpetrator, it's because they are about to wield lethal intent. They're treating the gun as though it's loaded. Their fingers ultra right. But I can grant you this. Maybe it's not important. We can move on to the next thing. Sure.
Yeah. I don't think it's important. So, but with the Baldwin situation, can we at least agree here, whether it be Hollywood's regular standards or regular civilian standards, gun safety protocol was not followed on set? Like, we're not even talking about Baldwin in general.
Yeah, in the event of somebody getting shot, that's almost necessarily true. The only thing I can think of is with the crazy malicious actors inserting themselves. But even at that point, there's probably some safety rule not being followed. So yeah, I can almost 100% agree with that. If somebody got shot, clearly some safety protocol wasn't being fired.
Okay, yeah, so I think we can at least agree there. And for me, no matter what our thoughts are on the issue, no matter how either of us feel about Baldwin, I don't really care about the political stuff with Baldwin. I only even figured out about his the skit with Donald Trump recently. Maybe
is there going to be careful, hold on, is there going to be a bunch of people posting in my subreddit where you've got a video where it's this is where I do my 45-minute breakdown on Alec Baldwin's horrible Trump impersonation and why he's not patriotic? Or
I was just thinking, I was what if I did a Sky News interview a year or two ago on Baldwin?
Okay, I'm just saying those teleprompters only get you so far, but go ahead. All right, what's your next part?
No, my point there is that no matter how we feel about him or the politics around it, assuming not all of these people are just lying for whatever reason, we know that other actors have come out and said this situation with Baldwin is bizarre, and they generally, as a rule of thumb, check their guns before use with the armorer. We know that experts.
Wait. Who says they check? Who says they check with the armor?
So actors have come out and said, Jeff Wright said, I do not recall ever being handed a weapon that wasn't declared or that wasn't cleared in front of me.
Sure. So here's something that I've seen in a wide variety of articles. So it is absolutely the case, I've seen this ubiquitously, that there are 2 people involved in clearing a firearm, that the either prop master or armorer and then the assistant director or whoever is handing the firearm to the actor. And I've seen these used interchangeably. There'll be a prop master, armorer, assistant director, but some combination of at least 2 people are checking this, clearing it, and then giving it to the actor. I've seen a ton of mixed stuff on whether or not the actors themselves are involved in manually inspecting the clearing. I would not be comfortable, and I don't think anybody should be comfortable saying that, like, oh, on every single set, the actor is going to be involved in clearing the firearm or in watching the firearm be cleared. That seems to be a responsibility almost completely delegated to the armorer, with one other person there as like a double safety check, the assistant director or prop master.
Yeah, I'll agree with you that one of the big problems with this conversation is that they don't actually have like law that applies to firearm use on sets. It's mostly, in fact, I was reading an article that said under industry protocols, oh, sorry, where is it?
Wait, can you say that again? You said law doesn't apply to firearm use on set?
Yeah, so there isn't like specific rules like by state how firearms should be used on a set, right? So like for Hollywood and how they're used. So what I was reading, and I'm just going to get this article up for you so I actually am quoting something. Safety standards developed by film studios and labor unions are the primary protection for actors and film crews when a scene calls for using prop guns. The industry-wide guidance is clear: blanks can kill. Treat all firearms as if they are loaded. This is from the Associated Press News, or AP News. And it's just talking about the fact that, you know, there actually is not some across the board industry standard that is applied. It's
different production companies have different guidelines, and there's like a general rule, but every set is different.
So I think that causes a lot of, I'll just send you the article so you know.
I will say though, on a side note to that, it seems like in general that's fine, because accidents with firearms on sets in the United States are unbelievably rare, is my understanding. It is incredibly rare that like these types of incidents happen. I don't want to say the last one was Brandon Lee, but I don't know.
No, there's been more recent ones, because I was looking at, apparently there was one in like 2017 I was reading a bunch of articles about. Yeah, so what I was going to say there is I agree it's a really complex conversation to have, because they don't have these exact standards that are outlined in law, but there is industry standards. States typically appeal to like the union guidelines. And when I'm seeing all these interviews with experts, with actors, consistently, I'm seeing the exact same thing, which is, you know, so they just did a big interview with on gun safety with experts that tend to provide armor, guns, all these things. So he said, this guy, he's Chandler Kornblum, vice president of Movie Armaments Group, a Toronto-based weapons supplier. Every time we hand off a gun on set to talent, we show the chamber, bore, and magazine. The actor has to signal that they accept the gun is empty. Only then do I hand off the gun. That also backs up what Ray Liotta, he's from Godfather.
Yeah, wait, so real quick, none of this matters. It might be the case.
Does. Well, just wait. It does.
But I don't care, because if these people weren't the ones setting the rules on this production, it doesn't really matter what they do.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I'm mentioning this, because I'm about to get to that.
Okay.
So Ray Liotta from, Godfather, they always, that I know of, they check it so that you can see it. They give it to the person you're pointing the gun at. They do it to the producer. They show everyone who is there that it doesn't work. So we've got all these articles. We've got experts saying that is the industry standard.
Wait, actually, wait, real quick. Yeah. I want to see that quote. They show every single person on set. They walk around to every person and clear it in front of them. Is that actually true? It says
they give it to the person you're pointing the gun at. They do it to the producer. They show whoever is there that it doesn't work. So whoever is going to be around and involved in that shot, which makes sense with, I'll send you that.
Okay.
So like that was my understanding too, that the four people that are shown are typically, the people that are going to be most affected. The armorer, of course, the assistant director, as you already mentioned, the actor, because they're going to be handling and holding it, and then whoever the gun is going to be aimed in the direction of. Now, all of these articles I've been reading say that often movie magic is used, so they'll put it a bit to the side to ensure safety. They'll use CGI, whatever needs to happen, so it's not directly pointing at them. But sometimes it can happen where it is directly pointed at the camera or someone else. And in those cases, the standard appears to be showing the person it's pointed at, even if it's just the cameraman, that it's empty, so that they all feel safe. So there's the article I just sent you. So like you said, this isn't relevant if they weren't working on the actual Rust set, because maybe Rust decided to have standards that were different from all these other people in the industry saying that this is bizarre and mind-boggling to them. The only problem with that is we now, and unless she is completely lying for some reason, we now have had Rust set, people working on the Rust set say that was their expectation on the set, and saying that was their standard. So,
saying what was the standard?
That this standard of showing everyone involved in the shot, or the person behind the camera, the actor.
Yeah, can you link me an article showing that?
Yeah, I'll just grab that. Sorry, I've done a terrible organization job of my articles. Okay, yeah, here we go. So it was just link it to you here.
So in reading through, just real quick. So in
go.
reading through some of these, right? So I'm not seeing a requirement. Now there are people saying, I'm reading the first of the Fox News.
I'm
article
not saying
right?
it's a requirement. I've said this whole time that that's a guideline and an industry standard that they're.
When I say requirement, I mean like this is the procedure followed on set, right? So this guy is saying
we've already established that there isn't any specific like legal requirement. There's just an industry standard.
But I'm talking about like the industry standard, right? So like, was this like was it? Am I not allowed to use the word requirement if it's not a legal thing? Or
here, I'll send you the that company article where every time we hand a gun off, this is the Toronto-based weapons supplier for sets. We make sure to show the actor, they accept, and then they do a handoff and say, yes, the gun is clear. And I've seen this. So I actually found an article from 2017 that asserted this as well, because I wanted to make sure the articles I was getting weren't biased about the Baldwin situation. So this is one from 2017, which states, each time a gun is handed to a performer, the armorer must open the weapon's breech and present it to the performer with verbal confirmation, such as the weapon is clear. When the performer is satisfied that the gun is not loaded, they should audibly confirm clear. And apparently this is often used with a flashlight as well. And I say this also, I live in Vancouver, or
can you explain to me
my life,
just
so
in terms of
everyone
this
works on sets here, and they've all asserted to me, that's very normal.
How do you clear a gun that has blanks? How does that make sense?
Well, you show them that either the gun that it's empty or whatever is supposed to
be
in there.
So you're telling me that on these sets they're removing every single round from the chamber and they're looking to the side for the whole. Well, how do you know they're blanks then?
No, because you can tell from the back. I mean, I was just reading an article about the armorer who says there's a little kind of circle sign on the back of the ammo that shows you it's a blank. And I hadn't. The article was saying they may have there might have been one in there, obviously, evidently.
So my understanding, is that there were three.
You can tell from the back of the bullet or blank what it is.
So I'm guessing this is whether the primer's been either squibbed out or hit or whatever, or the primer's removed, I think, for some of these bullets. But you would have to manually investigate like the back of you wouldn't be able to just glance. You'd have to actually like have the person. So if it's like a magazine, although I guess you wouldn't do that for a revolver, you'd have to like check the back of every single bullet on these sets for like to check between like, is it a dummy round? Is it a blank? Is it a live round? Like it wouldn't just be a quick glance. You'd have to actually go through like every bullet, like the back of every single bullet.
So it's either the front or the back, but they do have a way of indicating what it is, and they will put a flashlight in there or whatever they need to do to show the actor, to show the person who's potentially going to be in the line of fire or near it. Mm-hmm. They show them, from what I've read, as industry standard, that either the gun has nothing in it, if they're using movie magic and CGI instead of a blank to make the gun noise and everything, so show that nothing is in it, or to show that, yes, it is blanks. Those are the blanks. There they are. Here's your gun. Just so you know, it's full of blanks. Here you go. Key grip. It's full of blanks, which is why I wanted to read this article, which is the...
So this person here, because I see, I haven't gone through all the New York Post stories on this yet. So Stacey Mickey Evans, who is this person? It says a location manager.
Location manager for Rust, yeah. And she said a massive mistake was made. There are massive...
No, I know what... So I can see what she's saying in the article, but I'm curious, like, who... Do I trust this person's word for the procedure more than, like, the armorer and the AD and like, the producer, like, on set? Like, is this person somebody that is directly involved with doing all of this stuff, or...
Can I just finish reading what she said, and then I'll answer that? Do you mind?
Go for it.
Yeah, so... She noted that the armorist, assistant director, and the key grip are supposed to check the gun no matter what's going on set. And then very lastly, the actor checks the gun, she said of Baldwin, who is also one of the movie's executive producers. So there are 4 to 5 people in this stage, but somehow there was a failure. So to me, yes, I agree. You don't just trust the location manager for Rust on what the procedure was on their set out of nowhere, especially if it sounds bizarre. But when she's obviously going to be directly involved in the production, And you have all of these other voices in the industry, companies that rent out guns, armorists, other actors saying, yes, this is the
Wait, so
normal
hold on, real quick.
procedure.
Hold on, wait. Okay,
For her to
wait,
say
hold on, wait.
it sounds a whole lot less bizarre, right? It
No,
sounds more
you're
like
building a
company
case on
stuff.
a whole bunch of nothing, right? So
It's not nothing.
Everything you've said so far is nothing, right?
What?
So
A company that literally provides weapons for film sets, saying,
company,
this is our procedure,
yes,
is nothing.
correct.
And someone who works on the Rust set saying that was our procedure as well is nothing.
So
I'm sorry, that's absurd.
Okay, a company out of
That's
Toronto is not relevant here because they weren't the ones running this production. Number one, okay, stories from people on other sets.
I'm showing what a standard is. I know they weren't working on it.
It's not a standard because you have a Fox News article that points to 2 or 3 people that said this, right? Because in all the articles, and I think you even admitted this, we both have said that there is widely different standards from set to set to set to set, right? It doesn't seem to be the case that it is ubiquitous that actors check the guns. That means that, yes, we can probably find a lot of actors who say, oh yeah, we check guns because that's what we do on set, but there's a lot of them that don't as well, right? Or do you not agree with that? Do you think it is a ubiquitous standard set across all sets?
I have yet to find an article that is like, oh yeah, we never, as an actor, I never checked the guns on my set. This is normal. I mean, if you have an article like that where an actor is saying, actually, this is normal, this has nothing to do with Baldwin. Usually when we're past the guns,
hold on, you're going way farther. I'm not saying nothing to do with Baldwin. I'm saying
because all I have is a bunch of actors and armorists and companies saying this is normal, and you're just saying sideswipe that away because. Do you understand that you could give me 20 different production companies that say that this is the way that they do things and it still doesn't further your argument like a single step? Sorry, could you repeat that?
You could give me 20 different companies that all say this is how we handle this and it doesn't further your argument at all, right? You can give me...
So that's why I said, okay, here's a standard that's being applied. I'm not saying it's necessarily, Rust could be an exception to the general rule, which sounds like a very normal rule to have to ensure people don't get hurt.
Sure.
The exception to, what all these actors and experts have been saying, but we now also have someone who did work on the production who was saying this was their standard as well.
Yep.
And you can swipe that away and say, that was just, she didn't work directly with the guns. Fine, but it does appear that was an industry standard, but
no,
even
it does.
So
you didn't understand what I said earlier, okay? You could give me 100 companies that do things this way that doesn't build an argument towards what the rules were on this set. That goes nothing. You could give me 500 companies that do it that way.
That's why I gave you someone who worked on the set.
Exactly. So we've moved past, but the problem is you're bouncing around from piece of evidence every time I'm trying to point out this doesn't necessarily build towards your case. So when you give me the person on set that's making this decision, that's saying this thing about 4 people are responsible for checking the weapon, I haven't seen this repeated in any other media source. So I'm curious, who is Stacey Mickey Evans? And this person is just a location manager. Is this person ever even on set during filming? Do they know any of the procedures on set? A location manager just finds places to film.
Hey, wait.
Yeah.
This article is literally quoting an interview from an Australian outlet. So it was a radio interview. So we can go, maybe, are you suggesting that because you haven't seen this from other sources, it's fake?
No. I'm saying...
What's the suggestion there?
Hold on. I did not say that at all.
I know, but I'm trying to understand why you pointed that out. Why does it matter?
Because there are a whole bunch of people that are quoting I don't know if the AD has given statements, but the police department has given statements, the prosecutor has given statements, and then there have been people close to this on set that have given statements. This is the first time I've seen a statement by the location manager about this. So I'm curious, what does the location manager have to do with setting procedures on set? Is this somebody that's actually involved in anything related to the production or the filming? Or is this just somebody that signs off on a location and doesn't even show up to a single day of work on set?
The people working on set, I mean, this is also an industry standard and should be done by the armorer. They are all given kind of firearm safety and instructions if they're going to be using real firearms on set, which they were on Rust. So was the location manager at the Rust location? Did she go there? Was she there during filming? I assume she was there and had a lot of dealings with the actual production company. I think that's fair to say. Was she there at that exact incident? I mean, fair enough. Sure. We don't know.
So, the question would be so somebody that does costumes and makeup is going to be on set and everything, right? But I don't know if I would expect that person to know anything about the proper procedures for handling a firearm during a scene.
I'm not saying that she knows the exact procedures.
Then why is she the quote that you're giving me in this article? Because that's what this New York Post article is quoting. You gave me this one saying this is showing that Alec Baldwin was required to clear it. This is the location manager. I don't know if this person.
I'm saying that there would be the majority of people on set, given what everyone else is saying in the standard, is that they are generally educated on firearm safety and they would know the general protocol. And also, this general protocol she is talking about seems to be the general protocol in Hollywood overall, with actors, with armorist companies talking about that, saying, yep, that's what we do. And in your time working in Hollywood, I assume, like these actors that I've quoted, you would have seen this happen over and over and over again. And she would have heard this and had it and is confirming that these are the checks that exist. And these are also the same checks that existed on the Rust set. I mean, you can say that this is nothing, and that's fine. We can move on from this and say it's nothing. I think this points to the fact or the potential fact that this was likely similar to most other sets with their rules. And perhaps, like, it could be possible she's just talking out of her ass. Maybe that's the case. Either way, that doesn't change the reality that gun safety issues existed on set and were violated at some point.
Sure.
So we're still obfuscating from the wider question.
So hold on. First of all, no obfuscation is happening. Okay. We're just having a conversation and we can't talk about all topics simultaneously because we're not artificial intelligence. Okay. So the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people are incredibly eager to assign either a small or a huge level of responsibility to Alec Baldwin for reasons. Okay. Now, all I've said is that I think that this is one of the rare cases where a gun accident has happened. Okay, something happened that involved a negligent discharge from a firearm, but we're probably going to get all the details about what happened because it was on a fucking movie set. There's tons of witnesses. There's a lot of people around. There might even been film rolling. Who the fuck knows, right? So it seems silly to me for people to come out and say, this is what the procedures were, when we don't know what the procedures were, or this is who's at fault, when it's like, well, we don't 100% know who's at fault. People seem very eager to assign blame, but we could wait a couple weeks and let more details come out from the case. It's like, oh, okay, well, it was this, because I think that my argument is that there are so many branching paths where in some worlds, Alec Baldwin absolutely could have prevented this from happening. And there are other worlds where Alec Baldwin absolutely should not have been involved in clearing a firearm. So it was 100% the responsibility of, like, a shared responsibility between, like, the armorer and the assistant director. Though either of those could be the case. But without knowing the exact rules that were on this set, it's hard to make that declaration. Or there could be like a broader responsibility of the producers because there was live ammunition on set when there shouldn't have been, or something like that. That's all I'm saying. I find it weird that people are jumping to trying to assign levels or degrees of blame to people by saying, well, in other movies they've done this, when it's like, okay, why don't we just wait until we find out what the exact rules were on this set?
Good. Like, I think it's fair to say, you know, we should wait for more information, but to say, like, there is no, like, even potential conclusions we can lean towards right now, when we actually do have a lot of information available. We have the general guidelines, we have the comments by other actors, we have the incident details by the police right now. We know something has gone wrong with firearm safety. We have the statements by crew that were there. We have the fact that people were saying they were cutting corners on the production. You know, we know a lot of stuff and we have a lot to go off right now. Yes, there will be more. And I am not going to sit here, and at no point have I sat here and said, Alec Baldwin is solely responsible and needs to go to jail. He is a murderer. I think statements of that to that effect are absurd, right?
Sure. So
I don't know that yet. Mm-hmm. What I do know is we know for a fact that at some point firearm safety was violated. Mm-hmm. And I am of the belief that one of the rules, as it appears right now, based on the information provided, is that there are multiple people that are supposed to check that gun.
Yep.
But even if that is not the case and there is a weird exception for the Rust set, you still have other guidelines that were violated both by production managers and by the people on the ground handling the gun.
Okay, so we'll see. Okay, let's test this. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Okay, there are worlds. So let me give a sample policy. Okay, a firearm is supposed to be cleared by the armorer, then handed to the assistant director, and then cleared again, and then handed to an actor. Okay, if that was the procedure. If, I'm not saying that is, but if that is the procedure, okay? If the AD said the gun was clear, handed it to the actor, and then the actor fired and killed somebody, okay? Let's say that the armorer never touched that gun. In that case, I would say that almost the sole responsibility of that incident falls on the assistant director in that hypothetical. Would you agree or disagree with that?
That's tough because I would almost say that could partially also be on the production and whoever put forward the safety rules, because you're supposed to have more safety rules in place as established by the film studios and labor unions, which, if you look at the union guidelines, it's if you're firing a weapon towards people or towards the gun, first of all, don't fire it. We'd recommend or suggest that you use a fake gun instead and use CGI.
Okay, hold on, wait, this is all not relevant. I'm saying
I'm saying that in that case, I understand if those were the rules on set, but I would say even so, those seem like bad rules.
Okay, yeah, sure, but let's say those are the rules on set, okay? If the rule on set is that the armorer checks it and clears it, then the AD checks it and clears it, and then they give the gun to the actor who's not supposed to, and they say it's clear and the actor fires. In that case, would we agree that the sole responsibility lies on the assistant director?
Within the confines of their rules, yes, but on a wider analysis, I would say that those are bad rules.
Okay, sure, that's right. That's not part of the hypothetical. It's that in that hypothetical, okay? Let's say that there is a rule that the armorer checks and clears the gun, and that the AD checks and clears the gun, but there's a rule on set that if you're handed a firearm, you're supposed to observe it being checked and cleared before it's handed off to you, and then you sign off on it, kind of like with a rental car, right? Let's say that happens, okay? Let's say that the armorer never turns it in, the AD just picks it up, and then they say it's clear, and they give it to an actor, all right? If that was the case, then could we agree that there is a shared responsibility there between the actor and the assistant director? Do we agree with that?
I mean, sure, but like to me, if the rules on set are obviously lacking, and this is something someone in my chat is pointing out, this doesn't absolve anyone of moral responsibility. It doesn't absolve anyone of what they should or probably should do. Like, you're suggesting worlds in which rules are very bad.
No. I'm trying to make you understand something. No. Hold on. Let me. Okay. If you're ever confused about like a chain of command or why things are the way they are, there's one word we have to keep in mind. Okay, liability. Okay. Let's say that you're on a set, and let's say that ultimately, if anything bad happens, wait, let me finish. So let's say that anything that happens with a firearm, okay, is ultimately the liability of the armorer. Let's say that is the case, okay? Let's say that any criminal, civil charges, whatever production, like a liability, like in terms of monetary damage, let's say it rests on like the armorer or the armorer and the assistant director. If that was the case, and if they are trained and that's the case, don't you think it might be fair for them to say, if we check and clear a gun between the two of us and we're the ones that ultimately have the liability, when we give you that gun, you don't do anything with it except what we tell you to, which is pull the trigger. You don't empty the mag, you don't play with the bullets, you don't spin it, you get that gun exact, right? Don't you think it's fair for them to say in that case, we don't want an actor without the proper firearm training that we have to be messing with that firearm. If we clear it and give it to him, then he touches it as is. And that's it. Do you think that might be fair for them to say?
Within that hypothetical, and if that was the rules on the rest set, I can agree that within a legal court, that's why I'm not going to make any assessment or judge whether Alec Baldwin or anyone is going to be charged with anything. That's going to depend on the specifics. But from from the information available on Hollywood standards, on everything else, and just general understanding of guns, I think we can still say there's gun safety issues here, whether liability aside.
Sure. So,
right?
So liability is paramount, is incredibly important, maybe the most important thing. Okay, number one. Number two, a general understanding of guns doesn't apply here because actors are using these in a highly unique situation that almost no other person should ever be using a firearm as. And broader Hollywood standards aren't really relevant unless we want to back up and say, should there have been different rules on set? Which is
okay, but this isn't even controversial. Everyone that has been coming out that worked on the rest set and everyone around it is saying that there is a problem with the production company and the safety rules they had in place, that they weren't following their own safety rules. We already know they weren't following basic things by having live ammunition on their set in the first place. And holy shit, if it ends up being the case that they were actually doing,
they were going out
cans, that's going to be nuts, right?
Sure.
So we already know.
So you're doing this thing where I'm trying to have a conversation around
gun safety issues.
I'm trying to connect with you. Okay, I don't know if you can tell you're doing this. I'm trying to have a specific conversation on one thing, and every time you talk, you're vomiting out like 15 peripheral pieces of information that aren't relevant to the one thing I'm discussing, as an attempt to build an argument when I'm just trying to hone in on like one or two different things. Like, was it the case that there were potentially people using live ammunition on set? Yes, live ammunition was recovered on set, which is obviously fucked up, right? There are also 2 prior negligent discharges already in this production, which in my opinion means it should have been shut down, right? There are other things that we can bring in But that's not related to the specific things I'm asking. All I'm trying to say is that there are possible worlds where the actor himself had almost no responsibility. And there are also possible worlds where the actor himself actually had, on a macro level, a great level of responsibility because he should have canceled the production or got a new company. And two, might have been maybe required to personally check the firearm. I'm just saying that there are multiple possible worlds here. And there's no reason to try to say this should happen or that should happen or this person fucked up or that person fucked up until we have like a little bit more information that comes out. Now, I know it's not as fun or sexy to talk about stories like when they're 3 or 4 or 5 weeks old. It just seems really weird to try to jump in and pull in a ton of random information to build a case when we don't have all the facts yet. And we're going to get them.
Listen, I don't disagree with you that there, like you said, there are possible worlds where that could happen, where anything could happen. But based on the current information we have available, I think, it's very unlikely that there is a situation in which the producers, in which Baldwin was one of them, has no blame, whether that be on a legal or a moral level. And not that I even want to apply blame. Like, I think it was a horrific situation overall. And, I don't think Baldwin had any intentions of hurting anyone in this situation. But even people on his set had said, like, the conditions were not good. They were cutting corners. The first armorer.
Wait, do you know why they said they were cutting corners and the conditions weren't good?
There were multiple reasons. Yeah, some of them were housing.
Yes,
some of them were safety. Some of them were COVID.
Yep. Okay. Just making sure, because we keep saying this, because a lot of people say this. Say there was a ton of safety issues. There were a couple safety issues, but there were a whole broader set of things as well. And I think they brought in different people to do some of the production afterwards because some people walked off.
Non-union. Yep. Yeah, non-union people. Okay. And it doesn't even matter if it's a broad amount of people. The fact that there was issues around guns and weaponry in general is obviously the primary concern here. The original armorer they tried to hire for the production refused to do it because they didn't want to give him a second to work with him to check, to ensure he wants to, when he does a production, have a second to double check everything he does to make it safe. And he said there was a red flag that they didn't want to do that they wanted to cut that corner. So, even if there is no legal liability for the production company, I think on a public level, looking at the information we have available, you can say there's a bit of a moral question of, wow, there were some serious corners cut here that could have potentially prevented this from happening had you not cut those corners. And whether people like or hate Baldwin doesn't matter. He was a producer on this production.
That is true, but ultimately, we are not going to be able to say more until more information comes out. Even when we say that he's a producer, we don't really know what that means. Was he actually a producer that was involved in making like really high level decisions related to the production? Or was he like an actor out as a producer because it happens sometimes because they get either more credits or, whatever shit like that, right? We just don't know the answer to these questions yet.
Some of the things we do know, you're right, some we don't, but it's all pointing in one direction very confidently, and every time more information comes out,
what is the one direction? What do you mean when you say that?
That there was serious corner cutting on this set.
That I agree with that. Yeah, that does seem
yes. That there were gun issues on this set.
Yeah, that's agreeable.
I just don't understand. Yeah, I just don't understand people that are coming out so hardcore, like, against people suggesting this was a gun safety issue, against people suggesting there may be some culpability with Baldwin being part of production.
So there's like these are two totally different things. Was there a gun safety issue? Absolutely. 3 negligent discharges on a set is unbelievable. That's unreal to me. This is the third one.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. So obviously there were gun safety issues, but the only question is who was the one ultimately responsible? We don't know that, right? Let's say, for instance, because it's possible, but we don't know this, but it's possible that 2 days from now, an email gets leaked and Alec Baldwin is talking to the actual producer, and he's saying, hey, listen, I know that there were a couple of fuck-ups on set or whatever. I think it's fine. Let's just trooper through, who cares? Nothing happened or whatever. If that came out, then it seems like Alec Baldwin is pretty culpable for additional safety mishaps, including his negligent discharge, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be obviously the nail in the coffin kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's say that it comes out that there was an email where he says, hey, listen, we've had 2 accidents on set already. We need to get a new armorer. This is insane. This isn't safe. And the guy responds back, and the other producer responds back, and he says, listen, we don't have the money from the production company to do this. If you want to get a new set or whatever, like the movie's going to be canceled. Every single employee here is going home, and you've just fucked, 200 people out of a job, or however many people are working on this set. So, in that case, I mean, like, he tried to bring the attention. Maybe he could have done something, but now the liability shifted a lot more to the producer. The other producer. Do you agree that that's possible?
Like, I would never disagree at any point that multiple people can have degrees of responsibility.
That's not what I'm asking you. I didn't ask you. Hold on. You totally you danced around that beautifully. Okay. That was nice.
I wasn't trying.
You gave me the most political non-answer in the world. Of course, varying people, because when I asked you before, when I asked you where the one was Alec Baldwin was the bad guy, you were like, fuck yeah, that would absolutely incriminate him. But then when I gave you the opposite, you're like, well, yeah, different people can have varying levels of responsibility depending upon how culpable they were for setting up right? You totally different answer, right?
Hey, so fine, but these are all still hypotheticals based on the real information we have. It is all pointing in one direction.
No. The direction that it's pointing at is just that there were gun safety issues, absolutely. But we don't have an individual where we can be like, it was that motherfucker's fault. Are we going to assign a high level of...
Where have I said in this conversation, it is that motherfucker's fault? So, like, you're accusing me of... You've spent so much time accusing me of, Lauren, you misportray the other side's conversation, you exaggerate it. You're doing that right now. I have not said at any point it's that motherfucker's fault.
Oh, okay,
Opposite.
You can shut down my bad faith inquiry right now then. So I'm just asking this question. So do you think that it's plausible that Alec Baldwin either could or could not have almost any culpability in terms of what happened?
I think that would be strange based on the information now, but yes, sure.
It's possible.
That's a possibility. Sure, but I think it would be very strange based on the information we have now. Yes.
That's great. That's all I need, okay? When breaking news stories come out, all I need is for people to acknowledge, like, it is possible there could be some emails leaked that actually totally change who we would consider to be more culpable here. Like I said before, there could be emails that come out where it's like, Alec Baldwin 100% rushed this, fucked it up, allowed dangerous conditions to exist on set. And there could be other emails that almost exonerate him, where he's saying like, hey, we need to do something about this. Like, okay, like we've gone through the procedures of this. We had like a sit down and talk about it. And he did try his best to like get things changed. And then nothing did pan out or whatever, right? That both of these worlds are still both very possible. It's not all the evidence is pointing in one direction. Bullshit. We have very little evidence. We don't know much right now.
I don't think both of these worlds are very possible. I think that it's plausible. But based on the information we have right now, the set seemed like a disaster. We've got a ton of experts on the topic saying that gun safety was clearly not followed.
Hold on, why do you keep repeating it? We know that gun safety wasn't followed. Somebody got shot. I don't need you to say this. We know that gun safety wasn't followed. Somebody got shot. You don't need to keep repeating that point. We don't need gun experts saying that. Obviously, if somebody got shot, some safety procedure wasn't followed. You don't need to keep repeating that, okay? The question isn't whether gun safety was or wasn't followed. The question is who is ultimately culpable for it. That's what people want to know.
I don't think it's going to be one individual. I don't think that. I think it's going to be I think everyone on that set who knew people were using the prop weapons for plinking on the side, if that comes out to be confirmed, probably has a bit of responsibility, right? Would you agree with that?
I don't know how much they're expected to know. That feels like it would almost be common sense to me, but I could probably agree with that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there could be a lot of people, potentially. I think it's unlikely that it is going to be one smoking gun email that comes out like, haha, I loaded the gun, or we should fire all of this staff for that are controlling safety measures. Like, I don't think that's going to be the case. And you can say that I'm making assumptions, but I'd like to think that I've read a lot of the content on this, and at least the assumptions I'm making are educated ones on the situation based on what we have so far. And I think it's actually fair of you too to say you should still wait for more, but.
Sure, and every article that I've read about this thus far, now I haven't seen what the location, whatever person said, but in every article I've read so far, every single statement said that the protocol on this set was that the armorer was supposed to clear the gun, and then it was supposed to hand it off to the AD that also clears the gun, that checks and clears the gun, and that from there, it was supposed to be declared hot or cold and then given to the actor, basically. That was like the procedure that they had on set. If that is the case, and the actor isn't supposed to clear it, then in that like microcosm of a scenario, then from everything I've seen so far, it seems like the assistant director is almost completely at fault here because they didn't get it from the armor. They picked a gun up off a table that wasn't locked up, which is super fucked. And they didn't even clear the fucking weapon. Or if they did a really poor job of doing so. If that is the case. But now I'm not going to say it's only the 80s fault because there could be other worlds where Alec Baldwin maybe should have had more of a hand in it, or he could have asked. I don't know if he should ask if like the armorer checked, because the AD should be doing that, or maybe the armorer is at fault because they didn't lock the guns up, or maybe Alec is at fault because he knew that there were problems on set before and he wasn't changing the safety procedures that clearly weren't working. All of these things are possible, but all we know is that like something fucked up. Obviously, it was really bad. We don't know what the exact procedures were on set, so it's hard to assign a blame to an individual. But this all information is all going to come out as the case comes out. It's absolutely going to be, because people are going to be fighting over who's liable, because that's where the manslaughter charges and shit are probably going to land.
Right. Yeah. And that assistant director, I don't know if you read this, but he had actually apparently had this situation happen to him on a set in 2019 where a sound guy was injured in a discharge of the weapon. And the set there, to me, did the proper thing. They fired everyone. They fired him immediately with just one circumstance like that. So you've already, asserted this as well. But the first two discharges or misfires, the media have been using the terms interchangeably, which is confusing me, but I assume they mean discharges, like mistaken ones. When those two happened, yeah, they should have shut it down then and done a whole inquiry into it. So I did want to ask, because I don't think we actually disagree on too much. I think I just see more probability and more. I think that the media that has come out so far has shown more certain problems than you believe that level of certainty should be applied to it.
I haven't seen anything, and you absolutely haven't provided anything that incriminates one character more than anybody else, other than this statement from
I'm not trying to incriminate one character more than other people. I've been putting information forward that actors, experts, the union guidelines say, and saying it's looking like this is what should have been followed on the set, and it wasn't. I'm not trying to say Alec Baldwin, big bad liberal, he is entirely culpable for this. I'm saying, wow, he was a producer on this film, and it looks like corners were cut. That's probably a lot more people than just Baldwin. Probably not even, it's probably not even 50% him. It's probably just a smaller percentage than that, depending on what he was personally signing off on. Right now, it's looking like it's leaning towards, it was his job to check the gun as well. That seems pretty standard at the moment. Perhaps you'll be right, and it'll come out that, or your assumption that this is a possibility could be right, and it'll come out that it was absolutely not his job at all. That could be true. I just don't I think that it's plausible, but unlikely.
Okay. So, and then just real quick, because I know that you were quoting that there was like an industry-wide labor management safety committee. Did anything in there say that actors typically clear or check firearms?
Here, I can open it right now. Well, even have you read they were not following any of the things in there, like wearing safety gear and everything. I'll bring it up and send it to you.
But why weren't they wearing safety gear?
What do you mean, why weren't they wearing safety gear?
They probably weren't wearing safety gear because they thought that the rounds were dummy rounds, right?
That's the guideline for blank ammunition.
Wait, hold on, wait. Okay, hold on, real quick. I could be wrong. Okay, I'm just gonna explain these three things. You tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, my understanding is that a dummy round is a normal cartridge with a projectile on the end, but the cartridge has BBs in it and the primer is dead. So when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. That's a dummy round. A blank round is a round where the primer is active. There is a squib load at the top. It's pinched off and there's like paper or something, and there's gunpowder. So when you pull the trigger, there will be a flash, the action will cycle, and the cartridge will be ejected. And then a live round is like, we would say colloquially, a live round has a projectile. It's a full like bullet or whatever that you shoot and kill somebody with, right? So if they sure. thought that these rounds were, I believe, dummy rounds, then they were not using protective equipment, because when you pull the trigger, nothing should happen. So of course they're not using protective.
Let me just read read the opening here. It says these guidelines are intended to give recommendations, and I acknowledge it's recommendations. So I see that on the safe handling, use, and storage of firearms. Firearms include prop guns, rubber guns, plastic guns, non-guns, flintlock guns, pistols, machine guns, rifles, and shotguns that shoot blank ammunition. So you're right. This is the guideline for blank ammunition. So I wonder if it does say anything about dummy rounds in here.
Well, we don't have to go through. I mean, we'll know this, right? That like a dummy round, there's probably not going to be protection because nothing is coming out of the gun when you fire a dummy round. For blanks, there will absolutely be protection because people can be killed. There can be some stuff can get emitted, like dummy shit stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So like they give you guidelines for firearms that can fire just blank ammunition.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah. And they give you guidelines for guns that can fire real ammunition as well. So it seems like just the capability to do it is what the guideline is for. So even if it doesn't have them in it.
Well, this is my guess. If you can find something here that contradicts it, you tell me. If you're doing a scene where you're firing blanks, there's probably some level of PPE required there. But if you're doing a scene where you're firing dummy rounds, probably not. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I think that's fair. But yeah, it does say you have to have PPE for blanks. It does say, all of these guidelines were obviously not followed in this circumstance. But either way, there was live ammo on set. So it almost doesn't matter because the cardinal principle of all of this was not followed.
Well, sure, you probably should never have live ammo on set unless you're literally filming like a fucking documentary on shooting like ballistics.
I will say, but I know there have been movie scenes where they have filmed the gun firing, and then like an actor shooting it, and then they've filmed like the side of a car having it be hit with real ammunition. But everything's set up properly. So they have used scenes with live ammunition before, which is why there's live ammunition guidelines with the Actors Guild. But from what I've understand, this is where it's so complex, is like if you're not doing something like that, which is an extreme exception, there should never be live ammunition on set, especially when you're mixing up those guns with.
For sure. And even if you want to take it, and honestly, it sounds a little crazy, but even if there was live ammunition on set, that shouldn't be a problem because there should be at least 2 highly qualified people manually inspecting the firearm before any scene. The armor and the AD or the prop master, whoever's handing it off, should be manually inspecting these firearms before they're given. Even if there was live ammo on set, should never make its way into the barrel of a firearm that's going to be like used for a scene, right?
So I think one thing can we agree on this at least, that, and this is a weird argument for me as a conservative to be making, but there should be more, these guidelines that are suggestions should probably be standard rules and not just suggestions on sets, right? Can we agree on maybe that?
Not really. I think that for the most part, it seems like gun safety on sets has like been pretty stringently followed. This was just like an exceptional case of like people being incredibly reckless, like such that if these were rules, I don't know if it would have changed anything. Just in my personal, no movie experience or whatever, if I was working something and a single negligent discharge happened, I would probably fire everybody involved and I would get a totally different group. Just one. It should never, ever, 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 ever happen. Where a negligent discharge is defined as a firearm fired a projectile that wasn't supposed to. You would never get a second chance at that. A third, I would assume you're suicidal, and I would just ask you to go do your business offset instead of getting other people involved. That's insane to me. But like if you have a set where the production has reached that level, where you had 3 negligent discharges over the course of filming one fucking movie, I don't know if these being fucking federal codified laws, okay, that the Queen of England herself came over and fucking enforced with a sword would have made a difference to these people. It seems to be the case that like in the U.S. we have fuck tons of shows and movies that are filming with like cops and guns and all this shit all the time, and it seems exceptionally rare that these types of issues happen. So the set must have been exceptionally poorly managed for it to happen multiple times.
Well, like I almost wonder now, though, after looking into this, if it's just we don't hear about these issues because these companies have like massive, I don't know. So like that issue in 2019 where the sound guy was hurt because of a discharge by this guy who is now
My family
AD on the
struggled with
rest set. Did you ever hear about that?
And it
Because I
makes
didn't.
me want to make changes.
Hold on, fucking Christ. Sorry,
And
something
then
just played an ad.
another
Wait,
one-
hold on, wait. Can you repeat
Yeah,
that
yeah,
again?
go ahead.
Something just played an ad in my fucking window. Okay, say what you just said again. Sorry.
So like I almost wonder though if this happens more often than we think, because first of all, before the actual shooting of Hutchins, there was the 2 discharges on set that none of us knew about. That wasn't in the media. Obviously, there was this situation in 2019 with the AD where he was fired from a set for another negligent discharge of a gun that injured someone. And these weren't massive things in the media. I was reading another article from 2017 where a stuntman died on a scene that they were filming for Bliss and Esso video in Brisbane. He died from a blank, a gun loaded with blanks. The blank apparently, or was it the blank? I'll have to check again. But Yeah, it was supposed to be a gun with blanks. So these are cases that I have never heard of in my life. So I'm almost wondering if it isn't as uncommon as we think it is. It's just not as
My guess
reported
would be
on.
is that it's super uncommon, and the reason isn't whether it gets reported on or not, but like at least in the United States, I think the Screen Actors Guild or whatever, these people have a lot of power, and I don't think that they would stand for these conditions on set. I feel like there would be a huge stink made about them, and then especially today, where like everybody's got like cell phones and social media and shit, like these things probably do get reported, but like nobody cares much about it. But you can go back and like look for stories about this. That would be my guess. I guess it's possible in some cases where in a very small set maybe it happens or whatever, but it seems like there would be so many more accidents, especially because there are so many mainstream productions in the U.S. that involve the use of firearms.
Yeah, but like you said, people wouldn't stand for that. It seems like the one thing standing in the way of this happening more and not happening is the immaculate standards or like the massive standards that these sets have, and which I'm reading about are standard on with other, companies, armorers and actors.
Sure. Just to be clear, and this like thing that you were citing, because you brought this up a few times, the industry-wide labor management safety standards. I don't think anything in here shows anything about like an actor themselves clearing a firearm. It seems to all point back to like property master, the prop master, or the armorer themselves. It doesn't seem like an actor is ever involved, or at least I haven't seen it in any of these things.
Yeah, it isn't in the actors guidelines. Those are more the PPE and, not pointing at anyone, blanks can kill. For the showing everyone that it's clear, I quoted the actors and the company that does firearm rentals to set movie sets. There are also a few armorers who have said this as well. I'd have to grab the articles for you.
Okay. And then another thing, somebody in my chat just brought this up. We do hear all the time on sets when like stuntmen are injured and stuff. So it seems like if these firearm things are going off a lot, we'd probably get, because I feel like I've heard like somebody, like Tom Cruise broke his leg. That doesn't count, but like a stuntman was injured, so it like delays like the filming or whatever. It seems like these things get reported on, at least if the movie is big enough. Maybe there's a bunch of smaller movies where it happens and we don't hear about it, but
yeah, I have no idea how common it is. That was just a random thought I was putting out. Like, oh my gosh, because I don't like had no idea about that discharge that happened with the AD. This is not something I think about. I don't hear about it that often. People getting shot on movie sets. So I was like, is it that common? How would this happen? I have no idea how common it would be or how uncommon. But like you're saying, it's probably very uncommon based on the fact that we hear about it so little. But if so, it's probably because there are extreme guidelines for how they're supposed to do these things.
sure.
I would assume.
When
Anyways,
you
I
say,
don't
I'm
think
curious,
we-
when you
go
say,
ahead.
when you say make a new standard, what kind of enforceability are you looking for? I'm curious what you mean by that.
Just because right now, all of the articles reporting on this, one of the biggest difficulties talking about it is there's no set standard. It's just the states or whoever is talking about it, they whatever the guidelines are for the labor union, whatever the guidelines are for the specific set. So it seems weird to me. I'm not a legislator, but it seems weird to me that there isn't like a set expectation for how firearms should be handled on movie sets.
Wait, so do you think there should be like legal standards for it, or I'm just curious what you mean when you say standards?
I don't know. It just seems weird to me. That there isn't like, yes, an across the board set expectation for and protocol to prevent these things from happening.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe there shouldn't be. It just seems weird to me.
Well, I'm just curious. Whenever somebody says like, well, because that's like a question I'll ask people. They're like, oh, well, this shouldn't. Or you can even say it with regards to like a hot button topic, like the coronavirus vaccine mandates, right? They should be mandated. When somebody says that, you have to ask them like, should the government mandate it? Should private companies mandate it? Should schools? Because these are all different. So like when you say like, should there be like mandates or standards set? Are you saying that like it should be included as part of like the insurance policies or like their labor contracts, or there should be like a special set of laws drafted in states for like firearms used in productions? I was just curious. It's not a huge question. I was just curious if you had like something.
Yeah, no, I haven't thought about it that like that hard about how it would exactly be implemented. It just seems strange to me that even the media, commentators, everyone is having difficulty pinning down the policies around this, which seems to have added to confusion about how firearms are supposed to be run on sets. And I'm sure that would lead to confusion with people working on these sets and seeing things going on like, oh, are they allowed to be plinking on the side? Is that okay on sets if there's no official standard? It seems like people that have spent a long time in the industry, like this armorer who initially turned down the job, is like, this is not normal, and I'm not going to be anywhere near this. And union crews who, for plenty of reasons, walked off and were like, we know this isn't normal, and we're not going to come near this. But for people that they just brought on, like they said, they brought on non-unionized individuals to save money and cut corners. They might be like, well, there's no set standard available. I guess that all of this weirdness going on around me, these misfires, negligent discharges, I guess, is there somewhere we can report that? Maybe it's normal. I don't know. I'm not the expert here, but it does seem that that could be an issue. Like I said, perhaps I'm wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, anything else?
I don't think we entirely disagree here. Like I said, it's just
Nope, we do. To be clear,
do we?
When I see a breaking news story, okay, the only issue I have is that if there could be other possibilities, and if there's more evidence coming out, I just hate it when people try to hijack it to like push their own narrative as quickly as possible. So, for instance, like every single time there's a mass shooting, okay, all the conservatives are praying to God that it's a brown dude in a hijab, and all the people on the left are praying to God that it's some, white incel kid. Like everybody is like hoping immediately to jump on high. And we saw Trump jump on this. I'm sure we've seen liberals jump on this where it's, like a shooting happens. So I was like, oh, it was a goddamn terrorist. It's like, oh, fuck, it wasn't. Or like, oh my God, it was a, this. And it's like, oh, fuck, no, it wasn't that. And then it like looks really bad. I just wish people would just like chill for like 2 seconds so information comes out. I think that it's totally fair. And I think it's totally appropriate to say there were some huge safety fuck ups on this set. Absolutely. I just don't know who to point the finger at yet. That's all I'm saying. And it could be, because people think I'm sipping for Baldwin, it could be 100% Baldwin's fault. And you know what? As the like executive or not associate producer, whatever you would call it, or co-producer, whatever, there is like a decent likelihood that at some point, even if it wasn't directly in that micro interaction, at some point he did have a larger voice to stop something. Especially because he's a big fucking name. He probably carries a lot of weight behind what he says. Even if he isn't the actual like associate producer or whatever, even if he is just in name only, he's a huge fucking actor. So that could be the case. But I'm just saying, like, chilling until all information comes out. That's all I'm saying.
So I agree with that phenomenon that exists where it's like, oh, please let the shooter be white. Please let the shooter be brown. Let them be Antifa. Like, that, of course, exists. But there's also another phenomenon that happens where something will happen and it doesn't turn out the way the individual wants. And it's like, oh, shit, the shooter was a white person. And suddenly they come in and they're like, we don't have all the information yet. We don't have all the facts. Everyone settle down. Everyone chill. And as more information comes out, every person on set is speaking up. All of these industry giants are saying this is not normal. To continue to say, we just got to wait for more info. We just got to wait for more info. We just can't know. We can't know anything. We don't know where it's pointing. Like, I think that is another phenomenon that people follow when they are simping for one partisan side.
That is, but it sounded suspiciously similar to this scenario, but none of that has happened yet. Yeah. Okay. The property manager is not the expert on set that you think they are. Okay. That is absolutely, there's a reason why that person is only quoted in the fucking New York Post. Okay. I'm sorry. The property manager is not the one that we're interested in here. Number one. And number two, all of the information will come out on this. Nobody can hide from it. The most progressive BLM, Zer pronoun liberal cannot hide from the truth of this case because it will come out at charges will be filed. And the most conservative, right wing, the thin blue line, cop lives matter, whatever person will not be able to hide from the truth in this. It's not one of those things where we can all be like, oh, well, we don't know. We will know all the information. And when it might come out, and who knows who will be liable. But I'm just saying, chill, that's it.
Nobody knows. It's not pointing in any direction.
I didn't say it wasn't pointing in a direction. Listen, I know that in Canada things are different, but in the United States, we have a legal concept called innocent until proven guilty. And that concept can be more broadly applied when it comes to conversations in society. I guarantee you, I would bet my life on it, that you've probably tweeted at least one time in your life that, oh my God, this Me Too stuff is crazy. Like, you can just get accused as a man. And even if there is a lot of information pointing in that direction, there should at least be a trial. I'm sure you've said that at least once in your life. And I'm saying that exact same standard could probably apply here, especially when we know we're going to get all the evidence. There's no reason to push it so hard.
I have never said at one point there should not be a trial. Okay. I have never said someone is 100% guilty. I have said there is a lot of information that is leaning in one direction right now. But of course, innocent until proven guilty. 100% agree with that. Absolutely.
All right.
Speaking of, what do you think of the Rittenhouse stuff coming up?
I don't think about it that much. I think it's probably going to end in a super predictable manner. We'll just see how many riots there are, I guess. Or if he'll get pinned on like smaller charges. Like, I don't even know if the firearm possession is illegal at this point, or if they got that kicked out because of the hunting shit or whatever.
What do you, there was just the incident the other day where everyone was freaking out because the judge was saying we can't necessarily refer to the people who were shot as victims yet.
Well, of course, because that's fucking material to the case. If they're victims, then Rittenhouse
Right.
is guilty. If they're aggressors that he defended, so then they're not guilty. Why would you be able to call them victims? That doesn't make any sense. That's literally the subject matter of the case. That's not surprising to me at all.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, people were saying it was an indication of bias with the judge, but yeah, no, that's pretty okay. All right. Well, that's all I had for tonight.
Okay.
I enjoyed
Well,
the talk.
have fun. Be careful. Stay safe.